Good morning. This is a VirtualPBX admin training. Just a couple minutes early here, so I'm just gonna see or wait for people to get logged in and also make sure my audio is working properly, which appears to be doing so. So we are here basically every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Runtime is roughly an hour and a half. If my connection happens to be wonky, it could be a little bit longer. But for the most part, we are going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started. So on our page here, you see our -login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get here from the virtualpbx.com website. You'll see a blue bar towards the top of the page. And in that blue bar, the word login is there. You can click on that and it'll take you here. I do recommend bookmarking this page just so you don't have to keep having to hunt for it. Now, in order to log into your Dash account, you need to enter in your username, which is your email address, your password, which should have been emailed to you, and then the account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you don't have your password, like you lost the email, for example, right here above the sign-in bar on the right, there's a link here for Forgot Your Info. Just click on that. We still need your email address, right? And then we need either of the following two pieces of information. We need either the account name or a phone number that's on the account, right? So one of your customer-facing phone numbers. Then you click on Reset Password. The system will send you an email. It's going to have a link to get you logged in. Once you get logged in, you're there to change your password, and then the system will log you back out. But then you come back here, and that gives you a chance to click on the Remember Me box, and then you can sign in. Now, I'm logging into a test account that I've logged into several times, so by default, the system is sending me here to the dashboard page. If it's your first time logging into Dash, it's actually going to take you to your account page, which you can get there by clicking on your name up here at the top. So here is your information. Most people just change their time zone, although you can change your own password here if you are so inclined. As an admin, you also have access to the account level settings. Oh, I should warn you that first time you log in, you're going to get pop-ups, right? The Dash Wizard is going to be telling you different things and what different things do. Most people here, they change their time zone for their business. And you can see your account name and account ID. Now, on your accounts, you'll have another section under User for billing information, right? That's where you can update your credit card. You can see your invoices. You can see your service plan. You can also update who the billing contact person is, right? As well as like the contact address, etc. Now, once you're done here, just click Close over here to the top right, and then it'll be on the dashboard page. Now, again, that first login, you're going to have the Dash Wizard keep sending you pop-ups, just telling you what certain things are. So up here at the top, right, this is your name and your company name. You can click on this at any time. That'll take you back to those account pages we were just looking at. Many of you to the right of your name, you'll have a Dnd toggle, right? Dnd standing for Do Not Disturb. If you click on the toggle, it will make it look white. That means your Dnd is active, so that means calls won't be offered to you. Now, the reason I don't have it on my screen here is because my user is part of an Acd queue. Once you are made part of an Acd queue, the Dnd toggle will disappear. Right? Dnd and Acd queues do not work together or cause more problems, so that's why it's removed. Then we've got the little question mark icon. You've got actually 4 spaces, although only 3 are showing on my account right now. First, you have chat with us, right? This opens up a chat window so you can speak to a support team member and they can walk you through whatever feature you're working on. Online store, this will open up a new tab and take you to store.virtualpbx.com. This is where you can order things like a VoIP phone, a router, etc. Learn more, this will also open up a new tab and take you right to the support pages. So then you can look up a particular guide for a feature, right? Our guides will typically have screenshots as well as written instructions. Some of the guides also include videos of those particular features. Now, this blank spot here can be filled, and that is if you assign a web phone to your user. Web phone is a kind of soft phone, right? So it uses Chrome, or it allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls via your internet connection. All right, then we got the 3 horizontal line icon here, sometimes referred to as a hamburger icon or just the menu icon. This takes you to other features of Dash. The majority of our time here today will be on the dashboard because that's where most of the core features are. But we will get to all of these at least briefly. Some of them, like queues, for example, have fees associated with them, so I'll try to make sure to highlight those. And then we have the little arrow to the right icon here, that's the logout. In the middle here, you see my total users, right? These are people on my account who make and receive calls. If you're on a per user plan, right? Each user you have increases would increase your bill. Down below that, I have my total devices. I currently have 30, and then a breakdown. Now, Dash was designed with VoIP in mind from the get-go. If you don't already know, VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. It just means using your internet connection to make and receive calls. All right, so first up here, we have a cell phone, and I've got, looks like 10 of them, right? We're all pretty familiar with cell phones, probably a little unfortunately. Web phone, right? Again, uses Chrome or Firefox on a computer, make and receive calls. The soft phone. Now, a soft phone is actually a relatively generic term, right? It's software application, uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So the web phone is a kind of soft phone, right? Because a browser is software. But the web phone was actually added as an option later on and was given a separate designation. The soft phone, that can refer to the VirtualPBX soft phone application. It can also refer to someone else's soft phone application, right? So if you got like Zoiper or Xlite from Counterpath. Next is a SIP phone. SIP phone is a physical VoIP phone, right? It's a Yealing phone, Polycom, Cisco, a couple other manufacturers. These are phones that you can auto provision on your account. That just means they're supported. And you can basically, when you auto provision a phone, you can also make use of most of those phones functions, right? Like soft phone, if you use a third-party soft phone, the only thing you're going to be guaranteed to make use of is making and receiving calls. Anything else beyond that could be problematic. All right, unregistered devices. This is in reference to my SIP phones. Right down here, and the system is telling me, hey, these 2 of these devices we can't send calls to. Now, that can be anything from the phones to simply not plugged in to internet outage at that location. All right. Total numbers, I have 23 phone numbers on the account. Most of our accounts include anywhere from like 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. That will vary depending on your plan. And then if you go over that, you will have a charge per phone number per month. For the specifics of how many phone numbers your plan includes and what that overage is, you'd want to talk to our account services team. Down here, I have 2 breakdowns. So first, I have assigned numbers and spare numbers. Right? Assigned number means I'm using it. That means someone can call it and speak to somebody, leave a voicemail, or be sending a fax or join a conference. Spare number still counts towards my allotment. I'm just currently not using it, meaning someone dials it, they're not going to get through. They get a busy tone. Right? This could be because I'm saving a number for an upcoming Valentine's Day promotion or President's Day promotion. Right? So once I'm ready for that promotion to go live, then I can put the phone number in the appropriate place. Or it could just be that I was using the number for some purpose, that purpose has now expired. I don't want to lose that number right away, so I just put it in spare. We have USDID and US toll-free. So US toll-free, that's US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888 number, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that just means a US local phone number, right? So if you want a phone number in Saratoga, California, and a phone number in Saratoga, New York, you can do that, right? You can also have international numbers if you want. If you're interested in adding an international number, you need to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in having a number in. If there are additional requirements from that country to get a number, the porting team will let you know what those requirements are. They then submit that information, and then assume everything is approved, we are able to get a number and add it to your account. Conference bridges. This means I've enabled one user on my account to host or moderate a conference. I can obviously add more if I want to. That ability to add the ability to host a conference only comes into play after you've assigned a main conference number. Over here to the right, we have my main numbers. So these 4 phone numbers, these all behave in the same fashion, right? So they'll all have the same main greeting. They'll all go to the same place in terms of routing. Obviously, you can have multiple main numbers. You can only have one if you want. A conference number, you can have multiple conference numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same location. This phone number, right, this 408 number here, this is what everyone dials to get to the conference, whether they're my staff member, my clients, or my vendors. The fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, right? This is your inbound fax number. So this is what people dial to send you a fax. Then we've got the company directory. This downloads a CSV file. So you can see your usernames and their primary devices and their extension numbers. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. You would download this file, then upload it to your VPBX soft phone app on your computer. And this will allow you to see the presence or status of your other users who are making use of the soft phone. Now, keep in mind, it only shows the soft phone statuses, right? So if my coworker Jeff has a soft phone and a Yealink phone, for example, I won't be able to know if he's on the Yealink, right? If he's making a call on that Yealink phone. I can see if he's on his soft phone, though. All right, then we got the store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in our online store. And then lastly, we have the account realm. This is unique to each account. This is one of 3 pieces of information you would need to program a third-party soft phone application or device. You also use this for sending out a fax. So on Dash, sending out a fax is actually via email. So you just create an email like you normally do. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, then the area code and phone number you're faxing to, @ symbol, your account realm. Then you need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file, and then click send. Right? The system doesn't look at the subject line. It doesn't look at the body of the email. It looks at the to field, it looks at the from field, and it looks at whatever first attachment it sees in the email. Right? So 1 attachment per email, and then the +1 area code and phone number, @ symbol, and your realm. Right, up here we have the company caller ID. This is your default caller ID for your VoIP phones, right? Now, unfortunately, my streaming software won't play nice with all the pull downs, but you can select any of your main numbers from this first pull down, right? Then you have got the company caller ID name. This allows you to input 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. That is transmitted as part of your outbound caller ID. And then down here, we have the company emergency information, or E911. And this wants just a North American address. And then you would click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, this CNAM information, for instance, gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAM. That takes them about 3 business days to get that updated. Not every carrier a call can go through will support CNAM, so that's something to be aware of when you're testing out your CNAM capability. This is especially true with, or well, not exactly true. Something else to be aware of is when you're calling from your VoIP phone to someone's cell phone, your company caller ID, right, the CNAM information won't necessarily show up, right? Cell phone carriers, they control what shows up on their devices, right, on their network. In some cases, like I know with AT&T, if I want the CNAM to show up for all my incoming calls, I have to pay them $10 a month, right? I'm guessing there's a lot of people who are not willing to pay extra on their cell phone bills just to have company caller ID name show up. It could be because I know some of them bundle that with a bunch of other services, so then it might be worthwhile. But again, it's not always going to be a reliable test to test your CNAM with calls to a cell phone. You'd want to make sure you're going to some other landline. Any changes you make here, you do want to click on Save Changes so the system remembers them. Okay, then we've got hold music. So on Dash, hold music is defined as after a call has reached the user then presses hold on their VoIP phone. That is when this hold music file will play. You can upload your own file. You just need to find it on your computer and then click this up arrow icon here. The system will play back .wav, right, .wav, .ogg, and .mp3 files. You want to make sure they're recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that they're under 1 megabyte in size. Once it finishes uploading, then you would click Save Changes, and then all of your users, whenever they press hold on their VoIP phone, this file would play. Now, this is also a pull down, so you could also see any files that you've already added to the system as well. Now, ours is part of main number, so we'll dodge on over here to main number and work our way down. Now, the main number page sometimes takes a little bit to load, so that's something to be aware of. First up, we have main company numbers. Again, these shows your main numbers on the account. You can always add from your spare number list. So I can add either one of these two numbers and make them a main number. I can also buy a new number. Now, if you have no phone numbers on your account, the system isn't going to charge you for adding one, right? You have an allotment of phone numbers. So that's just what the designer said, hey, this is what we mean by adding a phone number to the account, because it's possible, right, that you might be over your allotment. So technically you would be buying a number in that case. Anyway, between local and toll-free, we'll start with toll-free because that's easy. You choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. You click on search, and then the system will hopefully populate some numbers here for us. And then you just click on the ones you want to add. You can add multiple numbers at once, right? They'll show up here in your cart with the number and the option to remove it. And then you'll just click on Buy Numbers. Now, at that point, the system is verifying that the number was truly available, and then it's adding it to account and activating it. Similarly, for local numbers, well, the major first difference is you have to choose the area code. Now, if you choose an area code that's been exhausted, like 310, this is the message you'll get, right? Saying, hey, there's nothing available. 310 was one of the original area codes that was created back in 1947. It's been exhausted for a while. If you have to have a phone number in this area code, or you have an area where you searched all of the area codes and nothing comes up, you can send an email to our porting team, right, saying, hey, I need a number in this area code. Can you get one for me? We can then place that what's called a back order for a phone number in that area code. The problem with that is we don't know if or when we're getting one, so we can't give you an ETA, right? Because we're essentially waiting for someone to give up a phone number before we can get it. Now, in the case of 310, that's Los Angeles area code, right? There are several other area codes nearby. So you can do something like, we can search for 323 and then add a number. That way, it's the same process, so I'm not going to actually go through with that. Now, if for some reason I decide, hey, I don't want to keep these numbers, or at least I don't want them as main numbers, right? then you just click on assign next to a number, and that moves it into my spare numbers list. It's not removed from my account yet. Now, you notice there's a little gear icon here to the right. This is where you can update the caller ID information for a specific phone number. Right? So each of your phone numbers can have a different outbound CNAM if you wanted them to. And then you have the ability to turn on to accept inbound CNAM information on a phone number. Right, so that way it shows up on your staff's wait phones displays. Here you've got the option to update the E911, so that way every phone number can have its own E911 information. That means you can assign your VoIP phones to have different addresses based on the phone number, right? So if they need to pick up and dial emergency services, it goes to the right address. And then prepend, this is for VoIP phone users. You can add text in front of the caller ID information that shows up on your VoIP phone's displays. So it gives your staff members a heads up about what the call might be about. All right, next up, we have office hours strategy. When you first sign up for us, you start off at 24-hour open office, right? Meaning your system is ready to take call. Or you can choose to be on custom office hours. If you do so, just for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark, right? Like I could add Saturday. And then in these boxes here to the right, you enter in your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option here at the bottom to say, are you closed for lunch, right? So if your whole office is closed for lunch, you have a check mark here. And again, you put your lunch hours, again, in 24-hour time. And then you would click on Save Changes. Next up, we have office holidays. So first, if you're closed for holidays, right, put a check mark here. And then you have the option to add holidays. You have single day, date range, and advanced. Right, single day, right up here for Halloween or even New Year's Eve. Right, you give it a name, you choose the month and the date. Right, click on Save Changes. Date range, like here I have for Thanksgiving. Again, oh, sorry. That is actually an advanced option. So Christmas break, right, where I'm saying, hey, gave it a name, start date of December 24th, end date December 26th. Nope, 28th, excuse me. Notice that there's no year indicator, which is why I have a single day date range for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And that's just to avoid the system not handling that well. Now, the advanced option is like this retreat or even Thanksgiving, where you give it a name, you choose a month and a day of the week, and then first through 5th as well as last are your options here on this pull down, right? So you're just saying, hey, right, every third Thursday in November, right, we're closed, right? As well as for this retreat, I'm saying, hey, every third Friday in May, we're closed. And if you make any changes, you click on Save Changes. And then we have incoming call handling. Now, this refers to your main numbers, right? You notice I'm on my open hours tab here. I have an after hours and holidays, right? If I had left the lunch hours in place, I would also have a lunch hours tab. But these options are all basically the same. So call comes in this case, and it goes to my virtual receptionist. This is a link. It's going to open up a new window here. Over here on the left, this is your main menu. This is what people press to navigate through your phone system, right? 1 for sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing. You can add a route. You have the option to choose the default action, 0 through 9, and the star key. On this first pull down, the second pull down is where it's going. Now, whenever I add a new one, it doesn't like those pull downs. But if we go up here, right, so Smart PBX directory, right, the dial by name directory, you can send calls to a specific person. I can send them to a call queue, right, so like a tech support queue, sales queue. I can send it to a specific device, meaning a specific phone. The downside of that, if that phone does not have built-in voicemail, like many VoIP phones don't, for example, then the caller just keeps calling, right, until they decide to hang up. That's why user is better, because users has a voicemail built in. You can send it to a media file, meaning a greeting file. Again, once that greeting file ends, the call ends. Groups, departments. So group of people, right? Advanced call flows. This is if you're making use of submenuing. Your account would have to have multiple auto attendants, which we'll get into shortly. Or you can send it to a voicemail box. All right, over here on the right, we've got greetings. Oops. Right, text to speech. You type in what you wanted to say, you click update, save, and save changes. The text to speech greeting is limited to about 250 characters, not words, characters. You can sometimes go beyond that, but 250 I've been able to consistently save, so that's why I say it. The other thing to know is that every time you make an edit, right? So let's say I come back here in an hour and I want to change this, the system makes use of the same file name. So I can have multiple instances of the same name in my greetings manager, right? So in this case, it'd be main open hours menu TTS, right? I come back in, I make a change, it will still say, there'll be now a second file saying main open hours menu TTS, and I have no way to know which one is which just by looking at the file name. So what I suggest is if you make use of the text-to-speech greeting that first time, after you click update, save, and save changes, you go to your greetings tab and find that file and change the name to something that you'll recognize. Right, you can upload your own file. Right, you just click on choose file so you can find the file on computer. .mp3.ogg.wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. And then you click update, save, and save changes. Choose from an existing recording. You see I have a main open hours menu TTS listed here. This pull down would show you all your media files that you have added to the account. So if you have, right, and since I have no way, if I have multiple main open hours menu TTS files listed, I have no way to know which one is which easily. All right, you can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone on the account. That's what it means by a phone registered on this account. If you want to use a cell phone or a landline, then under settings, right, you want to look at this one here, allow outside recording, and you want to turn it on. Once you do that, now you can use a cell phone or landline to change your main greeting. You would call into your main number, and then you would enter this PIN number. This PIN number is unique to this time of day, right? So meaning I can only use it during my open hours, right? So if I call, say like at 8 p.m., which should be well after I've gone into after hours mode, I try to enter this PIN number, it won't work, right? So you can only record over the phone for the time of day that your system is currently in. The other thing to be aware of, let me rewind that a little bit. So if you just signed up with us, right, when you call into your main number right away, it's going to tell you that there's been no greeting saved for this menu. It will then ask you for the PIN number. Then walks you through, you record a greeting, and then it's in place. If you've been with us for a little while, right, so you already have a greeting file in place, when you call in, right, you'll hear that main greeting play. You can still enter this PIN number. Right, the system will recognize and say, oh, okay, and walks you through recording a greeting. When you do it in that scenario, the system is overwriting the existing greeting file that you were just listening to. Right, it's going to keep the file name, right? So you can say, your greeting file could be, main greeting 2022. Right, you call in, and let's say you're recording your greeting because you're having a President's Day special. Well, now your main greeting 2022 file, right, still has that same file name, but now it's talking about your President's Day special. So something to be aware of. Professional recording services. When you click order, it's going to open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. where you can order a greeting from them. They have roughly 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from, various versions of English, French, and Spanish. They have bilingual options. They also have hold treatment, so you have a mix of music and a greeting. They charge you separately from us, right? They handle their own billing. They send you the file via email, and then you would just upload your own file. All right, so settings. First up, we have number of retries on misdial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake, right? In this case, I am saying they can make one mistake. So they get two, that means they also get 2 attempts, right? Because they get the initial attempt, they make a mistake, the system says, oh, okay, they get 1 retry. So then they hear the greeting again, they can make another attempt, right? To enter in a correct menu option or a correct extension number. Dialing timeout, this is measured in seconds. This is how much time the system listens for button presses after it hears the first button press, right? So customer calls in, they press 5, which is not a valid option. The system waits for 5 to a count of 5, saying, oh, they're not entering an extension number. So then it says invalid option. Now, then they would get that second attempt, right, based on this setting. Now, after that second attempt, right, let's say they clicked 7 instead. Again, not a valid menu option, and let's say that's not an extension number. Now the system would send them to the default action. Now, if I don't have a default action, then the call would end. All right, we already covered allowed outside recording. By the way, that's defaulted to off. And then we have allow dialing extensions. This default is to on. Now, that means that when the person calls in to your main greeting, right, if this is on, they can enter an extension number, the system will send them through, right? If you turn that off, that means they can only press a menu option or get to the default action. And then lastly, we have the suppress playing of invalid entry. So after the final retry attempt, right, the system will say, that will tell the inbound caller, we did not recognize your entry, and either send them to the default action or end the call if there is no default action. And the reason to not have a default action is because of robodialers, right? Because they would just sit there and wait until the system finally sends them to the default action, right? Which is just using up time or minutes on your plan. All right, any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you want to click Save here. It takes you back to incoming call handling. You need to click Save Changes here, right? You're clicking Save twice. Now, the second option here, this is your live operator answer. So call comes in, I'm offering it to Aaron. If he doesn't pick up, it goes to my virtual receptionist. Now, I'm still under open hour, so it's still my same virtual receptionist. But let's say I switch it to after hours. So now, this is a pull down, right? So I can offer it to users, excuse me, queues, a specific device. And in this case, offering to a specific device isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Because after about 20 seconds, the system will send it to the virtual receptionist. You can send it to a media file. I don't recommend this just because your inbound caller will likely hear 2 greetings played back to back, and that can confuse people. Right? You can send it to a group. Right? Again, it offers all to everyone, every member of the group, and then goes to my virtual receptionist. Now, I'm in my after hours, so I have a different menu here, right? Which means I can also have a different greeting. I'll have a different PIN number. Holidays, similar is, right? So it has its own virtual reception if I'm using it. But in this case, I'm sending the call and I'm telling go right to voicemail. Now this is a pull down, so I can still select the users, devices, groups, call queues, and media file, right? And then I'm just choosing which voicemail box to send it to. Right? To skip the voicemail, that's just an extra option on this particular call routing option. Typically, we see this for like seasonal businesses, right? Once their season ends, they said, nope, just send calls to voicemail. Or for like a very like a 1 or 2 person organization where they saying, hey, we're taking vacation, right? We're closing down the office. This last option is if you're making use of submenu or additional auto attendants, where you can send calls to that secondary auto attendant. And again, any changes you make, you want to make sure you click on Save Changes. All right, main conference number. Again, you can add multiple conference numbers, right? You can from your spare or buy new numbers. You have a custom greeting. This is a text-to-speech greeting, right? This is where you want to say, welcome to your company name's conference. Without this enabled, right? If I put it back, the system says welcome to the conference, then prompts the caller to enter the conference room number and PIN number. Main fax box number, again, you can only have the one number. So if I didn't have anything assigned here, right, I would have the option to buy new or add from spare. But once you do that, you click Edit Fax Box here. And first up, you have the inbound notification email, right? You want to put an email address here, and that email address gets an email every time someone sends a fax to you. Now, if someone calls your fax box number, right, here's fax tones and hangs up, this email address gets an email saying there was a failed inbound fax attempt. The second field here, the email permissions, right? This is who's allowed to send outbound faxes, right? So you can put a single email address here, for example, or you can just put your company's email domain here, right? That way, everyone at your company can then send a fax out as long as they follow the proper format. They don't actually have to be a user on your Dash account. Auto attendants. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to have multiple auto attendants. The two major use cases is either you have, like, you own several small businesses, right? Each business has its own phone number and greeting, but you have staff members that cover these multiple businesses, right? So you've got a dog walking business and a cleaning business. You have the same staff members answer calls for both. The other case, as I've mentioned, is submenuing, right? So 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, right? Then you make an English menu and then a Spanish menu, right? They would then have their own greetings in their appropriate language. And then they would go to your staff members that speak those languages in terms of the menu options. To add an attendant, you just click up here at the top, Add Attendant. You give it a name and then an extension number, and then you click on Create Attendant. Now, once it exists here, you'll need to click on the name, and then you have the option. Do you want it? It starts off as unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, or you can say available in main menu, meaning it's a submenu option, right? It'll be available in your virtual receptionist. It will be available in any of these other attendants. It will be available as a option off of Ring Group's next action, right? You can see here, this one is left as unavailable. This means here we have phone numbers, right? So you can assign phone numbers or multiple phone numbers to your secondary attendants. Again, that's usually for your standalones. The extension number box, you can change the extension number. I typically recommend, if you're going to change an extension number, assign the new extension number first, right? Click on Save Changes, then unassign the original extension. Then lastly, you have this little wrench icon here under Settings. And you see here we have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? These times or dates in the case of holidays are going to match what we set up under main menu, right? So your secondary attendants have the same hours of operation as your primary. right? And then you only have the option here for virtual receptionist. So you have menu options, greetings, etc., which we were just looking at. All right, next up is devices. All right, shows your devices on the account. Right, red means unregistered, so we can't send calls to it. Green means we can, right, because it's registered. Occasionally, you'll see a black device. That means I don't know if that's probably not showing up on the screen here. But if you turn a device off, then it turns black. Right, it's just disabled, so you can always turn it back on. All right, adding a device up here at the top, new device, SIP phone, right? That's that physical VoIP phone. Now, I typically recommend adding devices directly to a user, just because I find it easier, because that's still a step you would have to do. But adding it on the devices page would be like your IT person is setting up the new office, so they have all the phones there, and they can just add them all at once, kind of thing. Anyway, SIP phone, you have these manufacturers to choose from. Some of them have a lot of models, right? Some not so much. No matter what, you would just find the make and model of the phone you're going to work with, and then you need to give it a name, right? Bob's phone, right? Or you can say Bob's Cisco phone, in case he's got multiple devices, right? And then we need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each phone, usually a sticker on the back. If the phone's plugged in under like menu status or general settings or basic settings, there's usually a heading for MAC. That's the information we want to put here. And then you would click on Create Device. The only other thing you have to do then is assign that device to a user within the dashboard. Now, for the phone itself, you need to access the phone's web user interface, right? That means getting the IP address, putting that IP address in a web browser on a computer that's on the same network. And then you log into the phone's web UI. We need to have a specific URL entered in to the phone's auto provisioning section. Basically, it tells the phone, hey, go to this website. It will go there and then get its config file, right? Once it gets its config file, it's going to reboot, usually a couple times, and then it would show up as a green device on the devices page. Now, for the specifics of these various manufacturers, you want to go to our support pages, and you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It's going to have screenshots for these various manufacturers, the proper syntax for that URL, and usually a couple settings that we want to make sure are verified properly. Right, cell phone and landline are basically the same. You just give it a name, right? Angela's phone. And then you put +1 area code and phone number, click on Create Device. Now, when we send a call to a cell phone or a landline, all right, let's go here. I'm going to advanced options, right? This is a default setting. So call comes in to our system and it gets sent out to your cell phone, right? Your cell phone's going to ring, you pick up, then you're going to hear a system message, right? Saying this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When you press 1, it's telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. Oh, then connect the call to you. You can speak to the inbound caller. That's great if it's actually going to your cell phone or your actual landline, right? If instead you're actually using this to send callers to, say, an automated answering service for your after-hours calls, right? So that automated answering service doesn't know when to press 1, right? Because it's basically a computer. It's just saying, hey, I got a call, I'm trying to answer it. So to avoid a disconnect basically between our system and your automated answering service, you want to go over here, right? So advanced options, and you want to put a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that means is we don't wait for the 1, right? So we send a call to this phone number, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? So your automated answering service then takes over the call and handles it. Now, If this is actually your cell phone and you have this checked, if your cell phone voicemail picks up, we treat that still like a connected call. So the inbound caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that comes up is the second option here, which is the keep original caller ID. Again, by default, no customer memory calls your system, gets to your cell phone, it's ringing, you see customer memory's phone number. Let's say the last 3 calls you've had have all been about extending your car's auto warranty and you're tired of it, so you let the call go to voicemail. Hopefully then you're able to contact Mary and able to complete your business transaction. But let's say you didn't. Let's say she's like, oh, I already moved on to someone else, sorry. So to avoid that, you can uncheck this. So now what happens when customer Mary calls, you don't see Mary's phone number show up on your cell phone. You see your main company number. Go back to the dashboard, hopefully quickly. Right? This phone number that you selected here, that's what would show up on your cell phone. So hopefully you would recognize, oh, this is a business call, let me take it. Right? So it's a way to know when calls are coming to your cell phone, if it's a business call versus a personal cell phone call, excuse me. All right, soft phone. On the devices page, the system will only allow you to add a third-party soft phone. All right, you give it a name. You're going to want to copy and paste the SIP username, right? Then you want to click on the SIP password box, so then you can copy and paste the SIP password. And then you're going to want to copy and paste the realm. You would click on create device, add it to a user. You would use those 3 pieces of information then to program or provision that device. And then hopefully it would show up as a green option or green indicator here. Now, if you want to add a VirtualPBX soft phone, you need to do that on the user page, which we'll get to when we get to users. Web phone, again, I would say just add that to a user. The web phone does have a login. It just uses your dash login information, so it needs to be associated with a user. Now, occasionally, you might need to click on the little edit icon next to a device, right? Click on the wrench. Audio, you want to make sure that like G711A and G711U are there, and click on Save Changes. Opus will also typically be there, especially for the VirtualPBX soft phone. At least those are things to check to make sure that they're there. Sometimes they don't make it over. Right, now for a physical phone like this Cisco, the G711A and U is fine. You don't need to have Opus. This is where you would also adjust the outbound caller ID to one of your phone numbers, as well as the E911, which you can select one of your phone numbers that has it already set up. All right, the Greetings tab, or your Greetings Manager, this shows all your media files on the account. All right, you have the name, the source, TTS means text-to-speech, upload means you uploaded a file, and recording means you recorded it over the phone, or someone recorded it over the phone. You can download these files here so you can listen to them on your computer, right? So make sure that they're relevant. Up here, you can add, right? So you can upload a greeting file here. And then you also have the wrench icon. This is where you would change the name or get rid of a greeting that you no longer need. Again, in terms of adding, right, .wave, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. All right, groups, sometimes referred to as hunt groups or ring groups. You click add group at the top here, give it a name, give it an extension number, and then you click and drag your staff members that you want in this group to the right, and then click on create group. Now, once a group is created, right, you can click on its name. You can always change the name, and then you have group call attempts, right? This is how many times the inbound caller will be offered to your staff members in this group. There's little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease it as necessary. Right, I can add it to 5, probably not 5 is probably pretty excessive. I normally say 1 or 2. And then click on Save Changes. Then we've got the members box. This shows your members, right, who's in the group. Up along the top here, we have timestamps. This last one you can edit. The default for a group is 120 seconds, right, 2 minutes. Right, I can change it to 60 if I click here. And then if I click distribute, it will equal out the time over my staff members. Now, if I need to change the order, let's say Peter has a particular project I want him to work on or focus on, I can click and drag and bring his name to the bottom. Right, do something like that. Now I need to click distribute again, so that way Peter's at the end of the order. Or I can click on these sliders and I can do something like this. Right, so now when a call comes in, it offers it to everybody for the whole time until someone answers the call. Now, for your group members, if they have multiple devices, all of them will ring, right? So let's say Peter, right, he's got 3 devices on his user. There's a user feature called Follow Me, but a call that's coming from a group ignores Follow Me. It just rings them all, right? Now, group users, they can answer calls from a cell phone, a landline, or a VoIP phone, right? Soft phone, web phone, SIP phone, right? The system doesn't care. In terms of compared this to queues, right? Queues are an add-on feature, and currently you can only accept calls in a queue with a VoIP phone, right? So soft phone, SIP phone, web phone. But the advantage is also for queue members, they can log themselves in and out of the queue, right? Or mark themselves away, right? Group members, you're in it, you're always gonna take a call when a call comes in, or you're always gonna be offered a call when a call comes into it. You don't have any control about when you're offered a call or not, other than a do not disturb toggle. All right, groups can have an extension number. They can also have their own phone number if you want them to. This phone number is available 24/7, right? Because it's not part of your main numbers. It's separate from that. So that's why it's available 24/7. And then groups have features, and we'll go down here because it has most of them enabled. So first up is ring back, right? So call comes into the group. When it starts ringing, let's say Peter's device, right? That ringing sound gets transmitted back to the inbound caller. If, for instance, you don't want that, you can instead replace that ringing sound that we get back from your agents by enabling the ring back and then uploading a file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg, coordinated mono under 1 megabyte, or you can select one of the files that you have already on the account. Now, if for some reason your staff member's phone doesn't ring, like we don't get that ringing sound coming back, then nothing plays, right? Because of this ringback file, it replaces the sound of ringing. So we have to have that ringing sound first. Right, next action. So if no one answers the call, what do you want to do with it? You have a pull down here, so you can select voicemail boxes. You can select the users. You can select another group. You can select a specific device, right? So a specific phone. You can send it to one of your other auto attendants if you have them, as well as back to your virtual receptionist. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding, meaning if they're not going to be at their normal desk phone, they can send calls to their cell phone, for example. And then caller ID prepend, you can add either additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your VoIP phone's displays, right? Again, if you have staff members in multiple roles or multiple groups, right, this will help them know what kind of call they're getting. Excuse me. All right, numbers. This shows all your numbers on the account. It starts you off in numbers in use, and then where they're going. You have a little gear icon here, so you can always adjust the caller ID or E911 or Prepend for any of these specific numbers. Spare numbers, right? Shows you the numbers you're not using on the account. If you no longer want a number on the account, you just click on the box in front of it. Now you have the option to delete. And now that number is no longer on my account, right? I can buy here, right? So just like under anywhere else, right? You choose local toll free, right? Likewise in groups, in case I didn't actually show it, right? Add from spare, buy new, right? Same options. You also have the option to port a number. What that means is you're moving a number from one carrier to another, right? So from our perspective, you're moving it, say, from AT&T to VirtualPBX. This would start the port process where we need to know the number involved or the name, right? US local toll free. It wants you then to upload a copy of your bill and then verify that it's within 30 days. It's going to ask you for the phone number, the address. There's some checkboxes. It's going to give you the ability to download a blank letter of agency or LOA and then upload it a completed and signed LOA and then submit the port request. The LOA, right, it's going to ask you for your company name and address and the signature, right? So that information, right, the company name and address should match what your current carrier has on file for that phone number. It does need to be signed, either digital signature or you can print it out, sign it and scan it back in. All right, typing your name twice will end in result in a rejection every time. In terms of porting, toll-free numbers, usually about 5 business days, give or take. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes they're faster. And in both cases, that presumes we have everything correct, right? If we get a rejection, it's not always very specific, right? Like they'll say address, zip code mismatch. They won't tell us, oh, the street number's wrong or the zip code's off or anything like that. Not always, right? So then we have to pass that information on to you saying, hey, we're getting told this is not, that this is incorrect. Can you find out what your current carrier is expecting to see? All right, users. This shows all the users on the account. A gray person is a standard user, right? Person with the blue suit, they are a system admin, right? So they can do all the things we've been talking about here. Adding a user up here at the top. We'll bring up a little box eventually. There you go. So first and last name, pretty easy. Right, email used for login. This needs to be unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse an email address for every user, right? So everyone has their own email address. You create a password for them, and then you select an extension number, right? The system is prompting me to use 1019 because that's the next available, right? Because we started this system off with extension 1000, but I can enter in my own extension number if I want to. All right. System defaults to create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user, meaning like, let's say I create this user, then I immediately add them a Yealink phone, right? They can pick up the Yealink phone after it's registered, hit *98 on the phone, and that will log them into this voicemail box I just created for them, right? That voicemail box will then prompt them to create a PIN number and then walk them through setting up their voicemail greeting. Here, you have the option to include a user in the user directory. Right? You don't have to. You can change that later if you want to. You also have the option to send emails to an alternate address. So by default, right? Let's say when a voicemail comes into this user, the system will send that user an email to this email address that we use for login, right? And that voicemail email will include like the date, the time, the phone number involved. and by default also send them an attachment so they can double click on it and listen to the voicemail. Now, if for some reason you don't want to use this email address for those purposes, that's when you would use send emails to an alternate address. It would just be a different address, like their personal email address. And then lastly, send credentials to the user. Right, so that way they have the username or the password, etc. Now, if you just need to create one person, then you just click on create user, otherwise create user and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. You can change their name. You can click on change credentials to change their email address or password. You can also click here to send them the password reset email. Right, change PIN number. You can change the voicemail box PIN number temporarily. Here's your option to send to an alternate address. Right, here's the ability to remove them from the user directory or add them back. This pull down here allows you to change a user to an admin or an admin to a user. Then we have the time zone, which this pull down actually works. So you can just search for the major city or location. This is the display language for the web pages for this user. So we have English, French, German, or Russian. You have the dialing timeout or ringing timeout. The default is 20 seconds. Now this user has follow me calling enabled, so you would set that there under that user feature versus on this page here. And then you've got the main extension number and the caller ID privacy. Users can have multiple extensions if you want them to, right? You can add additional ones, swap them out. Users can have their own phone numbers, right? Buy new, add friend spare. Again, these phone numbers are available 24/7, so be aware of that. Here on devices, right? You can add SIP phone, cell phone. I'm going to do soft phone here. And, oh, actually, hold on a minute. So that warning message is something you should read. It's basically talking about wireless VoIP technology. Now here, you see it starts off as a third-party soft phone, but I have this extra option showed up down here. It's grayed out. It says use third-party application. If I click on that, it will flip it. And now it says use VirtualPBX application. I just need to give it a name. I click on create device, and then I click on save changes. Now, once the system finishes updating, Aaron's going to get an email that's going to have his login information for the soft phone app, as well as download links. Right? So then he can download the app, log in over the phone, say like he's going to use it on his Android phone, for example. And then once he does, it would show up as a green device. Right? Likewise, web phone, you just give it a name, click on create device, and save changes, and then it would show up here as well. User features. So caller ID number, this only shows up for users that have their own phone number. And what you're saying is instead of the company, right, the main company caller ID, they're going to use their own phone number as their outbound caller ID. Call forwarding. So your users can turn call forwarding on themselves, right? They can either do that through the user portal or on the VoIP phone if they have one. Failover mode is for, well, as an admin, you have to set this up, but basically it's when the system detects that their VoIP phone is not registered, then the system will automatically forward the call to the either desk or mobile phone that you designate, and then you put +1 area code and phone number and save changes. Hot desking is a VoIP feature, probably potentially most useful nowadays when many companies are going to a hybrid schedule and you don't need as much desk or as many phones in your office, right? So in this case, I've enabled it. I've set the hot desk ID here as 1008 for Aaron. So Aaron comes into the office, say today, he sits down at desk number 7 and he picks up that VoIP phone. He hits *11. That turns hot desking on that phone. It will ask him for his hot desk ID. He enters that and then tells him that calls will now be sent to this device. Right? So now for the rest of his workday, right? Someone dials his user, it's going to ring at desk number 7. Right? Same if he's in a queue or in a group, it's going to ring at that phone that he's sitting at. End of his day, he picks up the phone, he hits *12 to turn off hot desking, goes home. Next time he comes in the office, let's say that's Friday, someone's already sitting at desk number 7, right? He says hi to Mary, and then he sits down at desk number 3. Same thing, picks up the phone, hits *11, enters his hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to him at that desk. Voicemail box, right? This was created when the user was created. Now this is default settings. Basically, you're saying, hey, I'm sending the voicemail message to email, and that means I'm also attaching a message to them. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they become full and will not accept any more. So it's possible you may want to put a check mark here to say, hey, delete after that notification email. So basically that means when system sends the voicemail notification out, the system then deletes that voicemail from the system because it says, hey, we already sent it out via email. That means that this user with this setting, they can't call in and listen to their voicemails, right? They can't go into the user portal and see their voicemails. They're only getting it via email. Transcription, by the way, is a plan-specific feature. The system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out for you in the body of the email to the best of its ability. Fax Box, users can have their own fax boxes if you want them to. I recommend that if you do that, that you make sure you use a phone number, either buy a new one or select a spare number. You can have it go to just an extension number, but that means that restricts Aaron to only receiving faxes. He cannot be able to send out because the system will use his extension number as his outbound caller ID, and that's not enough to get a call out into the world. All right, Conference Bridge, you can enable conferencing on any user. You just click Enabled. Once you've done so, you just need to create a PIN number for them and click on Save Changes. Your users can change their conference PIN numbers via the user portal. And in fact, what I will do here is on my user, we'll enable conferencing. There as well, so that way I can show that to you when we get there. Follow Me, that's for users with multiple devices. So it defaults to have them both when you first enable it as do not ring, right? So you would need to uncheck it and then you have a slider, right? You got a timestamp up here. Again, start defaults to 120. And just like in groups, I can change the order and click distribute, etc. Or I can just say, hey, bring them all. Music on hold. I can have my users have their own individual hold music if I want them to, right? I can either pick from the pull down or upload a new file, .wave, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono. Call recording, if I enable it, it starts off like this, because now you have to tell the system what kind of calls are you going to record, right? Inbound internal, right, means coworker Bob called me. Inbound external, right, customer Mary called me. Outbound internal means I called customer Bob, or coworker Bob, excuse me, whereas outbound external means I called customer Mary. Now, every account includes at least some amount of storage as part of your plan price. If you go over that, there is an overage. Again, for specifics, you would want to talk to our account services team. Likewise, if you wanted multiple attendants, you would want to talk to our account services team. And then do not disturb. As an admin, you can put a user on do not disturb, meaning they're not going to get calls. voicemail boxes. Shows your voicemail boxes on the account, right? The ones with names in this column here means they were created with the user. The ones without mean, like this one is a system generated one, but you can create your own voicemail boxes for like use for your ring groups or your queues. You need to give it a name. You need a voicemail box number and a PIN number. Then you click on create a voicemail box. Once a voicemail box is created, whether it's a user's voicemail box or one you create manually, right? You can click advanced, reading media. So you can upload a file, right? You can call in, right? The basic settings will allow you to call into a voicemail box and record it over the phone. So media file, that's the normal greeting file for this voicemail box, right? The temporary, this will play if one is selected, and that's usually used for your out of office or vacation voicemail message. And this is something your users can do on their own, right? They can dial in and record these, assuming they have their PIN number. As long as the temporary file is sent to none, then the media file will play. All right, recipients. Now, your user voicemail boxes already have a recipient built in, but for any voicemail box you create manually, you want to add a recipient and then put an email address, right? If you click add, then you're adding an additional second, third, fourth, etc. And then you would click on save changes. And then options. So once you have a media file and a recipient, go ahead and click on already set up. Then you have here, right, it defaults to automatically attaching the messages to email. Here's the option if you want to delete after notification. All right, advanced routing. This is where direct inward system access resides. This feature, when it's enabled on your account, this allows you to call in, say, with your cell phone, log in over the phone, and then make an outbound call, say, to a customer. Now, when you make that outbound call, instead of your cell phone number showing up as the caller ID, it's going to be your main company number. Now, if this is something you want enabled, you would want to contact our account services team, and they can go about enabling it on your account. Then it will show up here, so then you can enable it. I recommend clicking on Edit Settings, and then add an extension number to it. And then make this extension number not part of your normal sequence, right? So on this system, I started off with extension 1000. I would want to, make it an extension number that isn't in sequence with anything else, and then save changes. So now I can call my main number that rings to the virtual receptionist, or one of my auto attendant numbers, right? When I hear the greeting play, I enter this extension number. Then the system's going to prompt me for this PIN number. Then I'll hear dial tone, right? Then I enter the area code and phone number I'm reaching out to. I make an outbound call. Customer Mary, when she gets that call, she sees my company number, not my phone number, not my cell phone number, right? And again, that's this number here would show up. Now, the reason this is not enabled on new accounts on sign up is because if someone figures all this information out, they can make calls on your account and you won't know about it, right? Usually not until you get your bill and you're like, hey, why did I use so many minutes? Now, something that could help you with that would be the call logs, where you can see your call history on your account. Let's switch it to this month. Right, so left yellow arrow, that's an outbound call. And I can see here that Mike used his VoIP phone to dial this particular phone number. Right, so I know it's a legit call. If I scroll down, I see a little green arrow to the right. That's an inbound call coming from this 408 number, and it went to this particular soft phone. And then I see a blind transfer. In this case, that was parking the call. Let's go down a little bit further. Right, you see a call here went to this particular web phone and normal clearing. You do typically want to see normal clearing on the call logs because that means as far as the system is concerned, the call ended normally, right? Nothing abnormal happened. Now, if for some reason, let's say this call, you said, hey, I didn't get any audio, right? I couldn't hear the other person, they couldn't hear me. You can click on the little fire hydrant icon here. It's going to create an email for you, already addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. And that email is going to have the technical details, right? In the body of that email, you're going to want to include your experience, whether it was because you had bad audio or your phone never rang or what have you, right? So that gives us a little idea of what's going on so we can investigate further. Now, each of these you can download. It downloads a CSV file. You can go back up to 1 year on your account, right? Assuming you've been with us for at least a year. And you can pull up the call logs and then download them. So if you need to keep track of these for like compliance reasons, you would probably want to do that every month. Just be aware that if you have heavy call volume, you might have to take this down to a week-by-week level, even just because sometimes the system, it's like after like 500 records, it takes a really long time for it to show up. All right, feature codes. These, I've already alluded to a couple, at least one of these. Basically allows your VoIP phone users to access different features of Dash directly from their phone. This is also a web page on our support pages, right? Feature codes doc. And there's also a phone commands cheat sheet that has like a brief explanation of what each of these does. So you don't have to log in and look at it. Web phone users can also access the feature codes on the web phone page. All right, so that's the dashboard. I'm going to just keep going down here. So blacklists, this is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your account, right? So you would start by clicking Edit Blacklists. If you don't have one, you would just click Add, right? You just need to give it a name. Are you going to block anonymous or not, right? This just means that if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, we're going to block the call if you turn it on, right? Otherwise, they will get through. And then here you would add number. You just add +1 area code and phone number, no spaces. And then you would click add. And you keep clicking add for each additional phone number you want to add. Once you're done, you would click on save, right? Then you go back to settings. You want to make sure your list is over here on the right under selected. And then you click update. So now any phone numbers you have on this list, when they try to call any of your phone numbers, they're going to get a busy tone. They're not going to get through. All right, faxes. This goes to your fax manager, so you can see your inbound faxes. I don't know that we have a lot. Oh, here we go. So you see the date, the time, what number it came from, what number it went to, number of pages. You can download it. You can see the technical information, which usually isn't necessary on an inbound fax. Outbound faxes. See if it works that one. Yeah. So you see you have a success and a failure, right? Date, time, number it went to, number of pages. Now on the failure, you'd want to look at the log just to see if there's something, if it tells you some additional information. All right, subscriber absent. That means we basically had trouble contacting. So under the outbound fax log, any failure you see here, that means that's a problem with us and contacting the other fax number, right? So we see things like user busy, right? The fax number was busy at the time the fax was attempted, that sort of thing. Now, in the email to fax logs, if you see anything here, that means that the system had a problem processing the request itself. Either a problem with the email address or the attachments typically. You can click on the little eyeball icon here, and you see here, no valid attachment. That could be no attachment at all, or it could be someone tried to say fax a different kind of file, right? Faxing only accepts PDF or TIFF. So a lot of file types out there that someone could have tried to send that would not have gone through. All right, number manager. This is like our spare numbers page. So you can buy numbers and port. Reports, this would actually be a plan-specific feature. This is our advanced reporting. So you can create your own reports and that you can run. If you go to our YouTube channel, under videos, there is an advanced reporting demo that will give you an idea of what they can do, what it looks like. But again, this is a plan-specific feature, so you need to speak to account services if you're interested in. Voicemails, this goes to your voicemail manager. You can go to any voicemail box on the account. You can see the date and the time, who they were going to, what number they came from, or what number they're aiming to go to, their duration. You can play back the message. You can listen to the message, right? If you click on the box in front of it as an admin, you can move it to a different voicemail box. So for instance, I can move one of these. We'll move it there. All right. Likewise, when you click on the box, you can change its status, right? You can mark it as new, mark it as listened, mark it for deletion, or just delete it straight out. Acd Queues, as I mentioned, this is a upgrade or additional feature cost. Now, you have to have the correct plan to access Acd Queues to begin with, and then they have a fee per queue. For the specifics of that, you'd want to talk to our account services team. Now, what we see here, these are our standard Acd Queues. We also have Acd Queues Pro, which have a bit more features. You create a queue by clicking on Add New Queue. I'm just going to click on the gear icon here for an existing queue. You first need to give it a name and then choose either a phone number or an extension number for the queue. And then you have the queue routing strategy. Nope, pull down doesn't work. So this one is set to round robin, meaning it will equalize out over time. You can have most idle, meaning whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. You have leased calls, which is the least amount of connected calls, right? So least amount of calls that your agent has spoken to a customer, that person will get the next call. Least offered is the combination of missed and connected calls. And then on standard queues, you also have the option to ring all. Pro queues do not. I don't know why. Here, it's kind of cut off, but this is hold treatment. So you can upload a music file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg. There's also a default file in place. You can also select anything that you've already uploaded to the account. Pro queues, you don't just have hold music. You can do things like announce the position in line or announce the expected wait time, and you can have multiple different music files play. Or media files, I guess I should say. All right, queue timeout, measured in seconds. This is how much time people can wait on hold. The queue call limit is how many people can wait on hold. If you change this to 0, that means there's no limit. And this limit is on top of who's already speaking to your staff members, right? So if Mary and Bob are already talking to staff members, there's 4 more people who can wait on hold. Timeout immediately if empty. This means if a call comes in and you have no agents logged in, right, no staff members logged in, the system will treat that caller as if they've already hit this timeout, 3,600 seconds. Now, then you've got the escalation call flow after timeout, and this is a pull down. Basically, if no one's answered the call by the time the 3,600 seconds has happened, where do you want to send them, right? You can send them to groups, you can send them to other auto attendants, you can send it to users, you can send it to voicemail boxes, etc. And then the 0 out to call flow, this means you're giving the ability for your inbound caller to press 0 while they're waiting on hold. When they do so, where do you want it to go? Right? You can select none. That means they can't press 0, right? But then beyond that, you can say, hey, I want to send it to like a voicemail box or to a ring group or etc. All right, agent behavior. First, we got agent recovery time measured in seconds. This is after an agent is done with call, how much time does the system wait before it offers them another call from this queue, right? So usually we see anywhere from 0 to 30 seconds, right? Enough time to get like a drink of water, maybe finish notes about the call. Then we have forced away on reject or missed. So if an agent misses a call, the system will automatically mark them as away. this is enabled, right? That means the agent would have to mark themselves back ready again to take a call. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. The default is 20. Again, queues, you can only accept calls on a VoIP phone. So 20 seconds is typically plenty of time. And then you would click on Save Changes, or in the case of a new queue, Create Queue. Once a queue is created, then you'd want to click on this icon here for the members. Now, this shows me my staff members who are available to be in a queue, right? So I've already said, hey, you can be in queues. If I click on Manage Members, I'll have two lists. Now, these people are not in queues, right? So they don't even have access to join an Acd queue. If I click on Mark here and I click Add as a Member, right? So now he's over here. So now he can join the queues, but I haven't assigned him to a queue yet. To do that, I go back to the queues page, click on the particular queue I want to use. You see I'm already logged in, but I go to agents, right? There's Mark. I just click and drag, and now he is part of my support queue. Now, for your staff members, right, they would log in and click on Acd Queues, and initially, it actually marks them as away on the standard queues, right? Meaning, hey, they're not ready to take a call. That first time they log in, or anytime they change their VoIP device, right, they should click on the little phone icon here and select their VoIP phone, right? So basically, you're telling the system, hey, ring it to this particular phone, and then mark themselves as ready. So now they're ready to take a call. So when a call comes in, right now, I'm green, so I'm ready, right? When I'm offered a call, I'll turn light blue and it'll say connecting. When I'm actually connected to that person, it'll turn me to a dark blue or navy blue and say I'm connected, right? Marked away, you probably noticed my bar turned red. If I'm on an external call, meaning I made an outbound call, or someone called my extension number directly, right, not through the queue, this bar is yellow. And then if I'm on wrap-up time, it's gold. Pro queues will have the option, there'll be a performance icon here so they can compare an admin or managers can compare agents in terms of how they're doing. And then pro queues also have the ability for managers to eavesdrop, whisper, or barge in on a call, right, which is not available here on the standard queues. Dynamic caller ID, this is another plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. So the first one here is like this 408. Right, so you give it a name. You choose a phone number that's already on your account to display. And then you choose, am I using a feature code or am I just going to designate it by area code, right? Which is what I did here. So now whenever my VoIP phone users dial a 408 area code phone number, the system is automatically going to change their outbound caller ID to this 408 number. Okay. Slightly more complicated is this one here, where my staff members would need to dial *550 and then enter the area code and phone number that they're dialing. At that point, the system says, hey, that feature code means I should change the caller ID to this phone number. If you're making use of the feature codes, we do suggest doing star and then 3 digits, so that way you don't have to worry about running into the system feature codes, right, that are currently at star and 2 digits. Monitor is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members, right? Doesn't matter what phone they're using, right? You can see which devices they're on. You can also see the active inbound calls and who they're going to. And if you have any calls that are parked, right, you would see the parking spot number as well. Now, the recording manager is a built-in feature, right? This would take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. So you would log in with your -login and you can view your recordings, right? You can play them back, you can delete them, download them. The recordings, you could also link to an AWS account if you have it. Usually, I believe their pricing is better than ours, or it can be better than ours, I guess, depending on the scale involved. We don't charge for linking that. So if you have a lot of call recordings, you probably want to look at AWS. And in which case, once you link it here, you can actually see, this will like take you to your AWS, or it's not the AWS page, but it does show you recordings from the AWS site. Webhooks, this is also a plan-specific feature. This allows you to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in this, you'd want to actually talk to our sales team. But again, if you want to see samples of what we've done, you can go to developer.virtualpbx.com. You can see the kinds of things we've done in terms of linking Dash to other software. We also have a recent webinar from, I believe, last week with basically an introduction to a Zapier in conjunction with use with VirtualPBX. So that's something to check out on the YouTube channel. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own user portal, right? So as an admin, you can't get to anyone's user portal, but you already got to everything else. So usually not a big concern. It'll start you off on your voicemail page. And now, if you set up a voicemail box to delete after notification, right, nothing would be here. But here I see the message I moved over from Mark that we did under the voicemails section. You see the date, the time, what number it came from, what number it went to, the duration. You can play it back. You can download it. When a user puts on a check mark here, they can change the status. So I can change that to listened. And likewise, when you click on it, you can choose to delete it. Users can see their call history, right, in the call history tab. They can change the dates as well. Faxes, if they have their own fax box, right, they would see their fax history. Contacts list, this shows everything within Dash. Right, this is not something a standard user can add to, right? But basically shows everything that, so they can look people up, right? Like, oh, I need to call coworker Bob. Conference tab, right? This is basically available once you've enabled conferencing on a user. Over here to the right, this is where they can change their PIN numbers. Right, they have a moderator PIN and a participant PIN number. They can choose to have people come in muted or deafened, as well as the option to play entry and exit tones. Let's save that before I forget. Now, when you're in a conference, you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock a conference. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody. You can end the call. Also, when you're in a conference, you can mute a specific participant. There'll be little icons up here, as well as kick a participant out. And then settings and devices. This is where your staff members would set up their own call forwarding. They just click on the box there, put +1 area code and phone number, and click on save. Now, one thing about call forwarding, like this device should not already be a device on the user, right? Because then you're already forwarding to that cell phone, for example, right? So this is a device that they don't commonly use, right? An everyday use phone should be a device on the user, right? Something they don't use, they only use sporadically or, you know, in special circumstances. That's what call forwarding would be for. And then you can see the status here. And that is everything. I haven't seen any questions come through. It looks like we've been losing viewers. So I'm going to go ahead and end the conference or the training here. Again, feel free to check our YouTube. We have these trainings stored, so you can always come back and look at it. There's the advanced reporting demo, the Pro Queue demo, and the Zapier webinar that are also on our YouTube channel. I recommend taking a look at those. Beyond that, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.